Hi, everybody. Okay.
Hi, welcome everyone to the Justice Project Oversight and Planning Committee meeting. Today's date is February 19th, 2026. The time is 2:01 p.m. and I officially call the meeting to order. Welcome.
Right. Okay. Hannah?
All right. Thank you all for being here. We, the Justice Project Oversight and Planning Committee, acknowledge we are residing on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. The Coast Salish people are the original inhabitants of Washington's northernmost coast and of southern British Columbia. They lived in villages throughout this territory and continue to have an ongoing relationship with these areas. Since time immemorial, they have celebrated life on their land and waterways and on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of their people to perpetuate their way of life. Please join us in taking a moment of silence as we honor their ancestors and as we acknowledge the past, present, and future Coast Salish people as the original inhabitants of this land. And a very special thank you to all of our panelists today. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so my name is Holly O'Neill, and I'm one of the facilitators along with Marty Solomon, who's keeping all of the slides going and keeping our record of the meeting and joining in at different points. So you see us all along with our co-chairs, Hannah Sloan and Tasha Thompson, who are here as our co-chairs. So I'm going to go through a couple of the Zoom and logistics for our meeting. So we do appreciate it if you can keep your video on as much as possible. And partly that's just because it creates more of a feeling of us being in a room together, you know? It's nice when we can see each other's faces. While your video's on, if you can keep your sound off, keep yourself muted, that helps for the sound. Remember, they're open public meetings and they are being recorded, and those recordings go up online. When we're in the open discussion mode, so let's say we're having the panel and you have a question, you'll want to raise hands to be recognized to speak. So there's a little raise hand button, in the bottom panel of your Zoom screen, or you can, most of the time, if you just raise your hand, I can see you and I'll call on you to speak. And when you use acronyms, please define what they mean. And this is something where we help each other out. So if somebody uses an acronym and you don't know what it means, you can say, "Excuse me, could you define that?" Because it really helps make sure we all have a common understanding of what's going on. So those are our logistics. And thank you again for being here. I'm very excited about this agenda. We've been waiting for this day. And we're going to start just with a quick update on the community engagement workshop for the jail and BCC. So it will be our second one. And so we'll hear a little bit about that. Riley's here. Yeah, Riley, you here with us? I think I saw you. Oh,
Um,
maybe not yet. So
I
we'll
don't think
punt.
so yet.
He's not here. He'll show up. And then we're going to have a panel discussion that's really focusing on the incarceration of Indigenous individuals in our communities. And so we'll spend the bulk of our meeting on that topic. And then we have several updates to share with you all. And then, of course, we always close with public comment. So if you're a member of the J-pop committee, then you'll be actively participating, or if you tend to come every time and you are effectively participating, that's fine. If you're here just as a member of the public, I'd like to ask you to just hold your comments, and at the end you can speak during the public comment period. Okay? Okay. All righty. So, uh,
Well,
do you
let's
want to
see.
just share this, Marty, and just give us an update, do you think? Or
Okay,
do
and
you want
we'll
to take
just, if Riley comes in the next minute, we can, like, after we've done introductions or something, we can see if he has anything to add. He's much more flamboyant about presenting these events than me, but as Holly noted, the second community engagement workshop will be happening March 19th. It's a Thursday. It is again the same day as a J-pop meeting. So we hope that you can attend the J-pop meeting and then head off have a little bite to eat and head off to Linden City Chambers in time for a 6 o'clock p.m. meeting. And this is information to share with your friends and colleagues who you think would be interested, as it's a chance to really ask questions and give your input about the jail and behavioral care center specifically and the Justice Project more generally. I think that's all I have to say, but I am sure there will be plenty of promotional materials coming out, and we'll be sure to forward those through the JPOP email list.
Yeah. I noticed Barry is here. Barry, hold on for a sec. Barry, you're typically involved in the planning of these. Is there anything else that you think you want to share about them?
No, Holly, I haven't. This is actually the first I've heard of this, so I haven't been in the loop so far.
Okay. Anybody else
Yeah.
have info to share on it?
Holly, I'm part of the planning for it.
Good. Excellent. Anything
Uh,
else, Peter, that we want to
uh,
let people know about?
no, I think I just would encourage everybody to come and share their thoughts and look at the presentation of the jail scenarios that we have just been released in the last week or so. And I think it'll be a good opportunity to learn and to give input. So I know it's for those of us in Bellingham, it's a drive to Linden, but I think it's important that we're doing this. The first one was in Ferndale, the second will be in Linden, and the third one will be in Bellingham.
Great. Thank you, Peter. That's helpful. Okay, great. Well, let's move on then to our panel discussion. And we've been hosting these as a JPOP starting last year to really dig in more deeply to different aspects of the Justice Project implementation plan. And so I'm going to provide a little bit of background here in a moment, but first I would just like to introduce our panelists. So we could jump. Oh, do I do the intro first? I'm going to intro the content first, then we'll do the introductions. So here we go. So I just want to say thank you for the panelists to carve out some time to talk to the JPOP today, because we've had a couple conversations and this is really an important topic and it's been on a lot of people's minds. And I want to talk a little bit about what sparked this conversation. So back in November, Miriam Karamoko and Leo Anguiano, did I say that right, Leo? I hope, of the Whatcom Racial Equity Commission presented data analysis about the racial disparities in incarceration. And these were included in the report that came out in December. So the JPOP had a follow-up discussion about the results at our December meeting and agreed that we would dig into this topic to further understand the observed and long-standing disproportionalities, which are continuing and perhaps even worsening. So let's just look at the data. Whoops, going back one slide there. Oh, no, you're on it. There we go. Thank you, Marty. So the disproportionate number of Indigenous individuals incarcerated in the Whatcom County Jail this is the chart that we are looking at. And in this chart of the 2024 data, the red circle highlights the finding that there were 12.5% Indigenous inmates compared with 1.4% of the Indigenous individuals in the county population. So when I'm talking about disproportionality, this is what we are talking about. So the Whatcom Racial Equity Commission's report included a long list of additional data that we need to help understand and address the observed disproportionalities. And they did an awesome job. They did a fantastic presentation and really dug into some of those factors, which then we discussed as a group. We also felt during that session that it would be most important to hear from people who are involved in the many facets of tribal criminal legal system and what they think is going on and the work that they are doing. So that's the background of of our conversation. So let's go ahead and do some introductions. So I'm going to call on the people who I think are going to present today. And if I hear a silence, I'll move on. And when I call your name, if you could just introduce yourself, just like within 1 minute, just a minute of who you are and where you are coming from, what agency or organization you're representing. Okay, so let's start. Is Matthew Hewitt here? Okay, how about Manuel? What's your last name,
Pastor.
Manuel? Plaster. There we go. I can't read my own writing. Manuel, are you here?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, can you
Yay.
hear me?
Yeah, really
Hey,
well. Great.
I'm Michael Plaster. I'm here for myself. I work at the Lummi Clinic. Um, I'm peer support outreach overdose prevention. I've worked here for a little over 2 years, and before that, I was at the Lummi Men's Reentry Home for 5 years. And I've been incarcerated myself. I started out going to juvenile and then out. Um, but I've turned it around, and I'm grateful to be here. And thank you guys for letting me talk.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you.
I know you also have a nickname. And so I just want to know, what name would you like us to call you today?
Mm. Manuel's fine.
Manuel. Okay, good.
Great. Okay. Rosa. Do you
Hi
want
everyone,
to
I'm
introduce yourself?
Rosa Hunter. So I serve on the task force, so it's been about a year, and I work at Northwest Indian College, so I'm a researcher. I do have a background being incarcerated in the early 2000s, and yeah, so I'll share my story later on.
Great. Thank you. All right. Jay Martin. I thought I saw you. Jay, are you here?
Yeah, I'm Jay Martin. I'm the Chief of Police of the Lummi Nation Police Department.
Great. Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome, Jay.
And then Paul Talon. Are you?
Alan Paul.
Talon Paul. I
Here.
think I.
Yeah,
Great.
Talon Paul. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Talon Paul. I'm an investigator with the Public Defender's Office.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, I think that's it then, yeah? All right, so I'm now going to turn it over.
No, we're
Marty,
missing one. Sorry, Holly, we're missing one
Ooh.
right next
Oh,
to
go
me.
ahead. Who's there?
Hi, I'm Stephen Kinley. I was asked to come here to talk a little bit about my journey too. I work at the Northwest Indian College at the Salish Sea Research Center, and yeah, I haven't been to jail since 2019, and I've turned my ways around too.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. That's fantastic. Is there anybody else here who is here for the panel discussion who I missed? Okay, great. Then I'm going to turn it over to Tasha, our co-chair, who's going to moderate our panel.
Thank you, and thank you everyone who has taken the time to help us learn more about each other and how we can best, as we're on this journey of building a new facility, but also trying to incorporate better opportunities for better outcomes. And your insight is especially appreciated. So we have 3 questions that we want to go over, or have you guys kind of take on and discuss. And so the first one is, and I'm going to start with Rosa, if you want to start us off. What is your experience with the criminal legal system as it relates to prevention, diversion, and reentry services that are available to tribal members?
Excuse me just one sec before we dig in. I just want to let you know that Matt is here now. And maybe, Matt, can you can you just introduce yourself really quickly, and then we'll have you join in this. We just started. This is the beginning of the panel, so you're right on time. We just can you turn on your mic and just share your name, and there you are. Yeah, organization.
Yeah, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. I thought I had Zoom on my phone, so that's what caused me to be late. But yeah, my name's Matthew Hewitt. I currently work as a substance use disorder professional trainee with the Lummi Counseling Services.
Fantastic.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So in just a little sense of time, we've got we have several presenters and we have 3 questions. So I think if you can just aim towards like about 5 minutes per question when you all respond, 3 to 5 minutes, that would help us kind of make sure that everybody gets heard. Okay, Tasha, you ready?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the direction, because I know we can get going. There's so much great information and personal lived experience that we'd love to hear about. So again, I'll start with Rosa again to kick us off on the discussion of what's her experience with the criminal legal system, specifically as it relates to prevention, diversion, and reentry services available to tribal members.
Hi. All right. So I'm just going to get to the point. So it's probably around 2005 or so. I got in trouble. I caught a case. It was my first and only case, by the way. I learned my lesson the first time, but I also understand a lot of people don't learn their lessons the first time. So I did my time. I was convicted, and I have a Class B felony assault, and then so I went through the process, went to court, had a public defender, and he really did fight for me. So, and he's no longer here in Whatcom County; he's down in Pierce County. I didn't go through the tribal. I didn't, I'm tribal, but I'm not from here. My tribe's out on the coast and in BC, so they weren't helpful in that sense. But just talking about my time going through the system here in Whatcom County, and then going to jail and then coming out was I had people that were really in my corner, and then there was the people that were just like, oh, there's another native. And then and I could just tell, like, oh, they're just gonna wipe their hands on me. Let's just hurry up and let's get her out of here. And I had one prosecutor. So I guess I could say this. So my trial was, what do you call it? Continued. It was continued numerous times is because of the prosecutor. And I couldn't tell you their names right now. It's been so long. But my lawyer was like, no, we don't want this one, because they have this history with natives, with people of color. And then they're like, so we'll get it continued. And then we finally got a prosecuting attorney that was like, okay, we can deal with this one. So then I, went to court, got convicted, and wanted to throw the book at me, in the sense, the max time, but I didn't get the max time because this is my first offense. But I mean, it was a pretty serious offense, so I did some time. But when I got out, it was hard. I had a lot of support in the tribal community, but it wasn't from tribal leaders or anyone but just like within my own family. And I would like to say, not everyone has that support. And even with the support system I had, which was a really good support system, it was still very difficult. It was that system wasn't for me to get better, if that makes sense. Like, everything was against me, like having to go to my parole meetings, and I didn't have a car. I had to take a bus. And then if I even showed, like, hey, this is where I live in Whatcom County. I lived out in Custer by the time. There's only one bus. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. I said 9 o'clock. like that's your meeting, you miss it, you're breaking parole. But then I would send bus schedules like I'm never going to make it at 9 o'clock. So that's what I mean. So it was, and I'm not saying everyone was like that because not everyone was like that, but you get the few that are. And then, like I said, I had a great support system. I had people that were calling out of work, going in late so they can run me. They can come all the way out to Custer to pick me up, to drop me off, to go see my parole officer. So I don't have that, like the answers you're looking for in the how did the tribe help me? It didn't because I'm not from Lummi. So, but I did have a good tribal community that did support me.
Mhm.
Thank you, Rosa. And
Mm-hmm.
Mr. McKinley sitting next to you. I didn't catch your first name. I'm sorry.
Stephen Kinley.
Okay. And do you want to answer the same question?
Sure. Well, I didn't get in trouble just once, like Rosa here, but I started getting in trouble right around 17. I participated in juvenile drug court in Whatcom County. I don't think they do that anymore. I finished that program, which not a lot of people do, and it helped open up a lot of doors for me, which I took advantage of and went to school and tried everything out. But as soon as I graduated, I was, in my opinion, called half stepping. I was still having, friends that were still not like on the same page as I am, or going to places that I shouldn't be going. And it was just a matter of time before you fall back into the mix. But anyway, then this last time in 2019, I was in Whatcom County and Yakima, and then back to Whatcom County before I went to, was it the men's reentry program out in Lummi. And I don't really know if it's like a reentry program anymore, but when I did go there, I was there with a few other people that are here on the panel, and it was a good setup when I was there. But I was on a GPS monitoring ankle bracelet, and I was like confined on this road out here called Quina Road. And so I did what I did in the past. I went back to school, and it kept me, motivated. And then I eventually graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2023 in Native Environmental Science. And that, then I started working in a research lab, looking for toxins in marine water, things I never thought I'd be doing. But it's kind of, I don't know, I used it as like a stepping stone in order for me to kind of get my life back on track. And, I had a lot of things over my head, and I just used it as motivation. And when I was in jail, I met a lot of people that were, telling me like, don't get used to being in here, because as soon as you get used to it, you're going to keep coming back. And so I kept that in mind, and, I just soaked in all the knowledge I could, and I've been out ever since. But I'm an advocate though for helping people as soon as they get out. I feel like that was the best thing that happened for me, and because it's just as soon as you get released out of jail, it's all on you, and it can be scary at first, and it was scary for me. But like, if there's opportunities or like safe places for people to go, that'd be the good route. But like I said, I don't really know exactly if the reentry program's still going on. But yeah, you just have to have a good support network. You have to have boundaries. These are all things that I had to do in order for me to get my life back. And it had to be family members, friends, whatever. And just, just kept it that way and stick to it. And it all worked out, and I made new friends along the way. So that's kind of my answer to that.
Awesome. Thank you. How about, let's see, Matthew Hewitt. Do you need me to read the question again?
Yeah, why don't we pop it up on the screen one more time? Matthew, hold on for a minute. Marty, can we, because we got quite a few folks.
Okay. Yeah, so man, I have a lengthy history with the criminal legal system. My story started back when I was 13. I'm 36, going on 37 now. I started pretty early in the juvenile court system, and every conviction was drug related. It was either I was trying to obtain or I had drugs on me. And so that happened over the span of my entire life. And I crossed over into adulthood. And then I had moved out here to Lummi in search of my family because I grew up with my father. And he's not tribal. And he tried to kind of shelter me from this lifestyle. And although he did his best, I still sought it, out and tried to figure out where I was from and who I belonged to, and just tried to find a sense of belonging. But um, my criminal history for Lummi didn't start until really 2014, and I think that's when I caught my first set of delivery charges, and I was convicted of 3 of them, I believe, and then also possession of a firearm by a felon. And that in turn kind of gave me, I think it gave me a 3-year sentence for the Lummi tribe. And Lummi doesn't send our community members to prison unless it's like a very serious offense, and it's usually federal, which none of mine were really ever considered that serious to go to the feds. But um, I did 2 years on that 3, and in 2014 there was no reentry program. There was no reentry services available. We had the care office, which is where I'm employed now, but it wasn't quite evolved, I guess I could say. They were still going by textbook on what they thought they knew about addicts and addiction and how to help people. And so it was like surface level stuff. It wasn't really penetrating the heart of what we needed out here. And so I did the 2 years. I came back out and immediately went right back to the streets. There was no reentry home for me to go to. There was no clean and sober house that I could be a part of and get help from the tribe at the time. Well, a year later, I think I got out in 2016, and then in 2017, I caught my second subsequent offense for delivery and manufacturing, and I think I caught 5 delivery charges on that last case. And me and Stephen Kinley actually we were in Yakima County together, and we were serving our time together at that time. And I don't know, something at that time just kind of told me, like, this is it. Like, I either make a decision now and get my life figured out, or I'm doomed to repeat this history. And I kept hearing about the reentry home, and I kept trying to inquire about it. And I was just newly married at the time, and so my wife was trying to get me involved with that and see if that I could come out and do part of my time there. And I kept getting told no. And the reason for that was because I didn't want drug dealers, people that had drug convictions on their record anyways, being a part of that program. It was for like lesser crimes and stuff like that. And I think Stephen Kinley was actually the first one that they allowed in there with delivery charges. So he kind of set it up for the rest of us that were going to attempt to be a part of that program. And because he was being so successful at the time, they I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was like he set it up for us or if it was just a miracle of the creator. I don't know. But all I know is 2.5 years into my 7-year sentence, they called me and said that they had overturned their decision somehow, and then that they were going to allow me to serve a year or year and a half there on a GPS monitor, and I would put the rest of the time on probation and do XYZ basically. So I just told myself then and there that I wasn't going to mess it up. If they were going to give me the chance after telling me no for 2.5 years, then I was going to do my absolute best. And so I came out, and the reentry program at the time was a great place. Like, it was amazing. It was very strict and very structured. the way that it was ran, but that's what we needed. Had I come out to a place where it was relaxed and chilled, like I wouldn't have made it this far. So I needed that structure at the time, and that in I think they had a structure of like you come out, you're on this blackout period, and like Stefan said, you couldn't leave Quina Road, which is right directly at where this reentry program is located, and it's the only reentry program that Lemmy has, and it's only for men, which it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing at the same time because we don't have that same service for women. We don't have that same service for women and children, So there's women, our tribal members that are going to prison, and they don't have an opportunity like we did. But yeah, that's my experience. I got to come home and I got to do a little bit of time. I think I did 4 months out of the year that I was supposed to do on the ankle monitor there, and then I petitioned to the judge to allow me to move in with my wife and her older children from her previous, and the judge allowed me to move my GPS time over there into the Chelangan Village wraparound program. And it's a clean and sober program, but it's for families. So it's like a tiny little village, and they program over there as well. So yeah, that's kind of my experience with the reentry services and the criminal system.
Thank you, Matthew, for sharing. Jay, Chief Martin, can you speak to your experience?
Yeah, and as Jay's getting on, can I just mention, I don't know if people remember that if you want to see people close up, you can click the view on your top right, because we have a lot of little boxes on the screen. So if you want to be able to really tune into the person who's speaking, if you click on view and move it to speaker, then you can see people, feel a little more close. So yeah, Jay, are you ready?
Uh, sure. I've been a part of the legal system for some time. I originally started my career out here in Lummi, and I'm still here. Was hired back in, I believe it was 2001, 2002, to start the jail alternatives program for the court system. There used to be a pretty small, and so I worked with Whatcom County Sheriff's Department at the time, and was in and out of the jail, meeting people and things. And then I moved into the police department. I worked for the chief judge, the Lummi court director and things, and was natural resource enforcement. So I did the fish and wildlife. I used to be a fisherman a long time ago, both here and in Alaska, and then started here at the police department, and now I'm sitting here as the chief of police. I'm a part of a lot of the planning policies and things out in here in Lummi with, regards to emergency management, recovery, mental health, obviously the jail contracts, fire contracts and things. I kind of do whatever they ask me to if I can. If not, go throughout to try to recruit or figure out how we can get it done. Work pretty closely with some of the individuals. I mean, I obviously have family members that struggle with substance abuse, lost quite a few of them, responded to quite a few of them and things. And Seeing my family go in and out of their incarceration and things, and it's just kind of what we deal with out here.
I appreciate that you have lived experience within your family and also the criminal justice, but it's also broader than that with all your services with jail alts before. So thank you. And I think the Talon, Paul, can you talk about your experience, please?
Yeah. So most of my experiences here at the Public Defender's Office, I'm an investigator. I, for a short time, did work for the Lummi Public Defender's Office, also as an investigator. And that's most of my experience in terms of working with the criminal legal system. Regarding prevention, I'm also a Lummi tribal member. I was on youth council, and we focused heavily on prevention, specifically with our youth out at Lummi. And the other things I do, I'm a Lummi language teacher, And what we do is we work with youth and try to teach our culture and focus on things outside of language. My expertise is language, but there's many other things that we do. And that's everything. Thank you.
Fantastic. Did I miss anyone? I thought I have everybody's names down, so. Oh, I'm sorry. Manuel Plaster.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, let me see, where should I start? Like, I started going to juvenile young, just being a bad kid, hanging around wrong kids, making wrong choices, bad attitude, bad behavior. Uh, I don't really like want to go into too much depth, but I started pretty young. By the time I turned 18, I went to prison. I got 36 month sentence. I wasn't in jail long, to be honest with you, because I got booked in and then they gave me bail and I got bailed out. And it was a town, it was in Bellingham. Um, and then finally when I got sentenced, I came back. I think I was in county for like a week or something. I left on the chain off to prison. And when I got out, I was getting in trouble in prison, did all my time, got out. It was like a day or two back before before I'm throwing rocks back at the prison, trying to go back. That's the insanity of it. But I was out, I was in and out because I was 21 at the time. Between 21 and 25, I don't know how many times I was in and out of jail. Um, Mostly all drug and alcohol related. They were all actually all drug and alcohol related. Um, 2005, I was 25 at the time. I got caught with a gun and in Bellingham, the feds picked it up the next day and I was off to SeaTac the next day. They gave me a no bail and I was off to SeaTac. And that bad attitude, bad behavior followed me. I'm getting in trouble there. Fast forward it, I eventually get out. Uh, Eventually get sent to the halfway house down in Seattle. I for like the last month or two, I was surprised because I kept getting in trouble in prison, but um, I just ended up getting out. Same thing, get bad attitude, bad behavior. But so fast forward this, I'm playing this game, in and out, in and out. I got some kids. Uh, when I got out in 2000, I got 46 months in 2005. I ended up getting out. I think I was out 3 months and I got 60 more months. I got 30 months for the state and I got 30 months for the feds for a violation. And I got out and I've been out. Well, take that back. I got out in 2013 and I haven't unwillingly been back to the jail since. Now, like, I was just at the jail the last Thursday, but that was on my own. I got to walk through the front door. I get to I press the button, let them know I'm here. And, I get to press the button. They tell me, thanks for coming. I get to go in there for a 12-step program. But I'm pretty grateful for that, but, long story short, um, I, for me, like I didn't catch the only tribal charge I've ever caught, I think, was an obstruction. I don't even know if it's stuck. But back when I was getting in trouble, that I didn't think about the prevention or the diversion, or I didn't know I didn't know what that stuff was. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have did it because I had a really bad attitude at the time. But as I've so for me, I got like I'm in recovery, right? I got 8 years, 7 months clean off of everything. And since then, I've become employable. I started working at the men's home, right? And they hired me right away. And I was really surprised because I because I thought someone with a background like my background, no one was going to hire me. And at that time, I applied for a lot of jobs. I was like, man, I want to work. And like janitor jobs wouldn't hire me. So by the grace of my higher power, this job popped up, and I threw an app in, and I got the job. And that's how I came to meet some of the panels, Matt and Stefan. Well, I've known of them before then, but that's how I really got to know them. And so like the men's home, the Lummi Men's Home, man, it's a great place, man. It was, if I remember right, it was Jay Julius's idea, right? Um, I think he just got put back on council. I think it was when, I can't remember if he was he was our chairman before. He'd be a good person to talk to about the reentry. It was his idea, right? I don't know if he's ever been in trouble or not, but it was his idea for a Lummi men's reentry. And his thing was that, majority, the same thing, same path, like the behavior health, the addiction, and it's the same people that are keep going in and out. And he's like, let's try something different. So he had the idea of the men's home. And when it first opened, it was ideally for Lummi tribal members with Lummi charges to come there and do their time there instead of going to jail. And like you hear the guys say it was strict, like it's like big 12, couple, AA, NA, 12-step meetings, couple a day, you know what I mean? You got to be strict. It's pretty strict, and, you got to do your chores, just the basic stuff, right? You got to be, it's a lockdown. You got to be in there by 9. The doors open at 6. You got to be up and move and go to the morning meeting. There's just some structure, right? And as time goes on, COVID hit, and pretty much people, it felt like at the time people kind of stopped going to jail. And even before COVID, we would sometimes, if there's open rooms, we'd take guys coming out of treatment. If you went to treatment and you graduated and you were a tribal member, and if we had an open bed, we'd take you in. But ideally, the guys coming from jail or had to do jail time, are coming out of prison were the priority. But when COVID hit, it kind of shut, people stopped going to jail. And so we kind of turned into more treatment, more guys coming from treatment. And it seemed like there wasn't as many guys going to jail. So the men's homes kind of changed, but I feel like I said, I haven't worked there in over 2 years, but I feel like it's getting back on track to what it was ideally meant for. And, I've seen, I've seen guys that were like Matt was Matt used to come, he got out of jail, came there to live there, got some structure, got some clean time under him. And I seen him come back, and I seen him, work there, and I seen him do good and thrive and add to the community, and now he's at, it's pretty grateful to be able to watch someone's journey, right? Now he's at CARE, he's going to be a SUPD, and it all started like wanting to change and just little steps in the men's home. But as far as the reentry, that's a good place. And like I was at, when I was getting in trouble, like I was at a federal halfway house, but I never lasted that long, and it was like super lenient. I could just leave and come and go, pretty much like, I hung myself. I got in trouble, but I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, but that's kind of my take with reentry in the nutshell. Thank you guys for letting me. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. And we just had another panelist that popped on, Roman Simmons. I would like to invite you to answer this first question about your experience with the criminal legal system, specifically as it relates to prevention, diversion, and reentry services.
And introduce yourself too, Roman.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry for my late attendance, and busy day today. But yeah, thank you for the question. I think one of the things is like for I guess our experience here, I think I know there's like a bunch of like guidelines and everything like that everybody needs to abide by and everything, but our tribe out here, we also have like services as well too for like kind of like wraparound services or whatnot. But like, I guess like an easier way to get our like for there not to be a silo or whatnot, for like the information to kind of get like funneled through to our medical staff out here as well too. It's like I guess like if anything is like needed on that side, if like somebody is being incarcerated and they need to go for treatment or something like that, just to kind of have like those services provided by the tribe as well, like see if there's any opportunity for the tribal members to be seen by their physicians out here in Nooksack as well. And then like also like yeah, like but that would be up to them. That'll be up to them, like when they go into incarceration or if they go into treatment, just so like the flow of information like kind of continues as well too. That's like
Roman, can you speak closer to your phone so we could hear you just a little better, please? Thank you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
So much better.
Yeah, so much better.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, but my name is Roman Swanathet Simmons. I work for Nooksack Tribal Police Department. It's like I've worked here for probably about a good 10 years now. I worked out in Lummi as well too as a enforcement officer and then also a natural resources officer as well too. And I'm also on a Nooksack Tribal Council as well too. But yeah, thank you guys for hearing us out and seeing if we can I guess figure out what we could do better for our people, and not only our people but everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks, Roman, for joining and sharing. So the second question I'd like everybody to, all the panelists to kind of contemplate and think about is is as a result of the information that came forth from the Racial Equity Commission findings that Indigenous individuals make up 1.4% of Whatcom County's general population, but are 12.5% of the Whatcom County jail population. So what are your thoughts and opinions on what factors might help explain this disproportionality that we're seeing in the Whatcom County jail? How about we start with Chief Martin on this one then? Go.
I mean, I'm not sure as to why. I mean, maybe there's, more of a tribal, it could be more, more or less there's more of a tribal, population here within the county than others. You have both Nooksack and Lummi right here within the county. And we do have a lot that actually do tribal members that do travel up this way, and then they intend on leaving, and they end up staying in the area. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure how to answer that one.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Talon. Talon, what is your thoughts on this disproportionality?
This is a very complicated question. I mean, there's not just one thing. I mean, it could be many, many different things. I mean, really I can only speak to what my experience is. This type of statistic is seen all across Indian country. It's not just here. out at Lummi, from the different reservations I've been to, we all face a lot of the similar issues. And a lot of it, has to do with history, what's been done to our people. And, from that, growing up really in poverty and under stress, criminal activity just can rise up there, or drug use, with a lot of these things, it's very difficult to say what exactly the issue is, but I don't think we can ignore the historical factors that come into play here. But yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer. It's not just one thing.
Thank you. Yeah, it is definitely, there are so many different factors. And so, which is why I appreciate why we have so many different panelists with different experiences. So that might have their own thoughts on part of this reason why we're seeing this. So Rosa, can you speak to your thoughts on this?
Yes. So this is my view and from personal experience as well. So I'm Indigenous, but I didn't grow up on a reservation. Coming to Whatcom County and working on a reservation was a culture shock. I grew up in Seattle, so I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I grew up in projects my whole life, and that's pick a race. You know what I mean? That's anyone, right? I had neighbors that were Laos, Samoan, Filipino, Mexicans. But I think where it started with me is because it was in the city, in the inner city, in prominently poor areas. I think it started for me was I was getting jumped for my shoes and my jacket. And I got jumped numerous times on my way to school. I was on the track team. I was on volleyball. I was like 7th, 8th grade. I got tired of getting beat up for what I had. And so what do you do in those areas? You join a gang. You know what I mean? And then now I have this cohort of people that had my back, and guess what? I wasn't getting jumped for those things anymore. So that's where it started. I just think it's your surroundings, your environment. Yeah, and we have inherent trauma, and I'm sure that affected my family somehow, some way because of where we, where we were, where we grew up at. But I personally haven't made those connections yet. But also within my own family, it was normal to see drug use and alcoholism and stuff, right? So I went to jail because of alcoholism. It led me to get a conviction. But what you got to understand was I didn't think I was alcoholic because I didn't keep beer in my fridge every day and drink every day like my family, like a lot of my family members did. I was a weekend warrior. So I'm not alcoholic because I don't drink like my aunts and uncles do. I don't drink every day. So there's that. But now, like, for example, I have adult children, right? And they graduated high school. None of them's been in the system. They didn't have kids young. So now I'm reinventing this toxic wheel, right? It started with my mom. She didn't use drugs or drink. She saw what it was doing, what it would do to her children. So she moved us away from that environment. But it was a little too late. That was already ingrained in me as the elder one in my brothers and sisters, right? So it's just I'm the eldest, so that already stuck with me. But that, and I tell my mom, I was like, you started that change, you moved us. Yes, I got in trouble. Thank goodness I didn't have to hit rock bottom numerous times before I got the message. I hit the bottom once and said, oh, I don't like it here. you know, and then like really press my kids and try and change that for my children and stuff. But also, I think we have to teach our kids, especially in indigenous communities and communities that grew up that have their own cultures. Like I grew up with my Laos neighbors and stuff, is that you have to teach, yes, this is what was going on, this is what was happening, this is what could lead you if you want to stay down this road. But this is also where if you turn this way, this is where it can take you. So it's just ironic. I don't know if it's ironic, but even though I grew up knowing I was indigenous, didn't grow up in my culture, anything like that, I still had those results as if I did, if that makes sense. You know what I'm kind of talking about, Stefan? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's, I don't know if I answer any questions, but, and I guess now, like, you know, Stefan and I work together, uh, you know, like he's been around the world. I've been around the country. Like, I'm a sought out, you know, like I'm seeked out in my profession as a scientist. I'm a scientist, but it wasn't always like that. And I think what just comes down to was I didn't experience any diversion programs or anything because A, it wasn't offered to me. And I don't know if they would have been offered to me. I don't know if my crime or whatever I was at the time. I don't know if it didn't make sense to offer that to me, or if it did make sense to offer it to me, then why wasn't it offered to me? So I've been writing down questions. So listening to the other panelists, like with the recovery home issues, is like, or I question now is only certain people can be taken in, like, because like he said, like he was a dealer, so they didn't want to take him. You know, like I have a neighbor right now who's more mental health challenged, so he's not getting into programs because there isn't anything right now for mental health plus addiction, if that makes sense, right? So the mental health homes aren't going to take him. He's diagnosed schizophrenic. He really is schizophrenic, but he's also a user, a hardcore user. So a big part of me being on a task force and doing panels like this is trying to bring that awareness for a lot of the people that are on this panel that has maybe never experienced that or know about that. And then I just see my neighbors like just want to throw their hands up in the air, but it's their child, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. I think I'm just babbling, so thank you. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was going to see if Stefan wanted to follow up with thank you.
Yeah. So is this question like, what factors is the reason why there's so many indigenous people in jail? Is that what could be the reason? Is that what you're saying?
Can you clarify that more?
Well, like what factors might contribute to there is a disparate, like the
Why would there be
reports
more
show
neighbors?
that even though the indigenous population only make up 1.4% of the population, they're over 12% of the population within the jail. So there is there's a disproportionality. There's more in the jail than overall. So just what factors, and this is not, you don't have to have like research. This is just your lived experience and what you think could be a factor to that.
Kind of where you're almost in survival mode. A lot of opportunities that other people can get that you can't because of your record or your history, even if it's been, years ago and you're trying to change. Just like, how you look, you have tattoos or whatever, so people want to look at you some type of way or think prejudgment on you. So then they don't want to give you a chance. But for me, I guess I kind of helped pave the way. I took the opportunity out here in Lummi to do it's adult drug court, but it's different than Whatcom County, I guess. They care more about your well-being and trying to get you to kind of find like the what is it that's keeping you using, or what is it that's fueling the fire. And I mean, I was one of the first people to get in there with deliveries on my record, and then people started to, were being allowed into it, and I'm glad I was part of that. I didn't realize that was
Groundbreaking.
a groundbreaking thing, but I mean, I think people need to be a little bit more open-minded. I get it though. I understand it. Like, people could say they're doing the right thing, but really they got different motives. I get that, but you won't know until you give somebody a chance to, prove themselves. And so where I'm working now, despite my record, they gave me a chance, and so I've taken full advantage of it. And maybe the lack of people like talking about the resources that we have, so people just think just going to jail is like the only way, or theft, whatever it is, because that's usually what it comes down to. But I don't know, honestly, because I know there's like different laws now for possessions and stuff like that. So people think they just keep doing it, but I think it's just more, yeah. And that comes down to people too, not having nowhere to live. And people go there because you get 3 meals and a warm shower and a blanket and everything. I do know that for a fact. So I mean, housing is a thing too.
Can I say something that reminds me? I had an uncle who's Native, and he chose his addiction over anything else, and he lived on the streets because he knew if he came home to any of his families, any of his siblings' houses, which were my aunts and uncles, he had to be sober. So he would purposely go to jail, do something to go to jail, so he would have that poor pet, and he would just do minor petty crimes to where he knew he was going to be in there for. So that does happen. But also, I'll just state this, and this may have something to do with it or not, but I'm a professional in my field. I'm 47, and I know for a fact, if you know, you know. I know for a fact, I don't know, I would be in jail because of how many times people thought I was thieving from the store and I would be followed. Still happens, and I would call them out, and I'm like, oh gosh, they might think now I'm fighting with them, and I'm not. I'm just like, why are you following me? What have I done? But and that it could just be the assumption of what someone looks like. Oh, you're another Indian, or you're another drunk Indian, or look at that no good Indian, or whatever. And that really is a thing, you guys. It really is. Like even in my field, I've been working as a scientist for over like a little decade now, and I can tell you this: when I go to conferences, present my research, people just assume I'm like the help. It's crazy until they find out like I'm there to present. So I mean, it happens everywhere. It is what it is, but I don't know if ways of thinking like that is. And then, I don't know. And then I think people of color, not just natives, like, I'm not saying that that's the reason, but it could be part of the reason why, like, well, it's just like, I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you lived it. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I do a follow-up quick question, Stefan? And you touched on your first answer, and same with others. Like, you got into this house and it was very structured, and it was what you needed in that moment. But had you not made the decision to not go back to that life, would it have worked as well? Like, I heard from Matthew, at least what I heard was he had made the decision not to not be that anymore. So can you speak to like, because I know that we've tried services in Bellingham, speaking to the mental health neighbor of Rosa's that is still using drugs. if you were still in the throes of your addiction, would that situation been successful for you?
It depends. I mean, if I genuinely wanted it, like I did, it would work. But I know that if I were just using it as a way to get out, it would just, I'd be setting myself up, just to end up back in jail. I think that's what it comes down to. You just have to be ready. I was so tired of being tired, and I wanted to do something different. I was tired of just having to lie to people right in their face, my family, be distant. I was just so over it. But that house, yeah, I mean, if I wasn't serious about my recovery, I would have just totally used it as a escape, like a way out of jail, and then I would, it just wouldn't work properly. But the people that were there when I first got there really helped me accountable. I hated it, but it worked. I thank them now, but in the beginning, I was, defensive, I guess, but they were just looking out for me. And then the people I was there with, it seemed like everyone kind of just turned a leaf. I don't know if it was just the timing of me getting there, but it seemed like everyone was trying, and we were all really close together. But that's when I was there. But yeah, if I were still using and everything like that, or still had that mindset, I would just be right back in.
It wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked at all.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, do you want to express your thoughts and opinions on why there might be this disproportionate number?
Yeah. I've thought about this over the years too, because when I first started entering into Whatcom County juvenile department, there's 3 units up there, and the Lummi population took up the biggest unit and as a child. And then into adulthood, they have different floors for the jail. And I believe there was, my first time in there, one of the units was full of indigenous population. And that's where they placed me, because that's what's on my ID card, right? Like, even though I'm light skinned and light complected, like I said, my dad wasn't tribal. Like, I grew up in 2 different worlds. So, I grew up with my father, who's not tribal, but he's always been a part of, the indigenous. I mean, he has other kids with, indigenous women. I have younger siblings that are from a Canadian band, But I grew up in that world, and going to school, I wasn't accepted because people knew I was Native, right? Even though I didn't know nothing about my culture, community, or my family, or anything that had to do with the indigenous population. I wasn't accepted out there. So when I turned a teenager and came out here, I wasn't accepted out here because I was light skinned, right? So I'm a big advocate for, like, trying to say that the racial stuff, we need to figure out that part of it, because, I've lived it, and it's not okay. It's not easy. What child should have to go to school and be subjected by a bunch of 8, 9, 10-year-olds saying that you don't belong here because you belong to the Indians, right? Like, stuff like that, right? And I mean, children shouldn't have that type of language, first of all. Like, I don't let my kids speak like that, you know. I try to keep that in their head, like, we belong wherever we go, and it doesn't matter where we're at. But at the end of the day, I do see there's, the trauma from our generation's background, like my mom, my mother passed away at 33 from alcoholism. She, her liver went out on her. And I asked my father, like, why did she choose to use and drink, instead of being in my life? And, he told me it was because of her trauma, the sexual assault that she had to endure her entire life, and that stemmed from somewhere, right? It wasn't that somebody just decided to do that to her one day. It was their trauma that was placed onto them, right? And then it comes down to us and my generation. And so our generation, it's like hurt people, right? There's a saying that a lot of people say, hurt people, misery loves company, those types of sayings, right? And it's very true out here. And I believe that, like, just on my personal experience, yeah, I had to endure some trauma growing up. Yeah, I had to endure some, you know, racial inequity, basically from both sides, and I had to fight for my place, in the world. Um, but I believe for me, it was a survival technique once I got older. At first, it started off, I just wanted that thing. I just needed that. I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up with those types of things, like I had one pair of shoes that would last me 2 years, and they had holes in them by the time I got to transition them out growing up, and I saw other kids being blessed with this type of stuff by their parents. I grew up in Ferndale a lot of my life, earlier on anyways, and I saw kids getting blessed with this type of stuff. They would come to school with new outfits all the time, and I just wanted that, I wanted to be treated that way. And so I started taking what I couldn't have. And then once I got older and I became, realized that I was an addict, and I couldn't stop for the life of me, it was a survival thing. I wasn't going to be able to survive in the world that I was in at the time unless I had money, unless I had drugs, unless I had something to offer somebody so I could stay safe somewhere, and then in talking with other community members, I ask them some of the similar questions that you guys are asking right now. And a lot of them, it's fear. Fear drives what's going on. Fear is the motivator. Some people are afraid to be homeless for that night. So they go out and break into a car to sleep in, or they'll go steal somebody's money so they can go get drugs to sell them to go then get a hotel room for a week, right? Like there's these little things and it all comes from fear. And when that fear takes over somebody, a lot of people out here have grown up in a very violent home setting. And with fear and that violence paired together, it turns volatile, right? It's a ticking time bomb. It's an explosion of what's going to happen. And um, there is no flight for these people. There is no flight in that world. You have to fight for your survival. You have to fight for that meal that night. You're going to have to fight for your room for that night. And if somebody tries to take it from you, you have to stand up for that. And then all of a sudden, all these little things start turning into a big bad, cocktail. And all of a sudden, that's where it ended up. A lot of us ended up in jail. And like Rosa was saying, there is people that said, I'm going to go commit a petty crime tonight so I can go get a week in jail. So I'm getting 3 meals. I'm getting at least somewhere warm. It might not be the best place, but it's somewhere warm, and I get some food and I get a hot shower for the week, and yeah, so, bottom line, fear, survival, trauma, the racial stuff that people have had to endure their entire lives, I would narrow it down to some of those.
Thank you, Matthew, for sharing that. Manuel.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, Dan, this is a tough question. No, I've been thinking about why, or what, and there's, like everyone said, there's a multiple of answers, right? Or multiple, because but I was thinking too, like I know, so like our Lummi core system and the Lummi core system is different than Whatcom County's core system. Lummi, you catch a charge out here, you do Lummi time. Unless it's bad enough, you catch a Fed case. But if not, you're gonna go to county for a depending on what your charge is for a long time. I've seen multiple. I think the longest Lummi sentence someone was like crazy, 7 years in county. You know what I mean? And would he get that same charge if he was in town? I don't know, but that could be part of the reason why maybe the numbers are different. But then there's also like, I kind of wrote some the overlapping structural realities, including housing instability, untreated mental health, treated addiction, substance use disorder, you know, transportation barriers, the long-term impacts of historical trauma. You know, a lot of bookings seems like are behavior health related, addiction related, you know, little probation violations, you know, or like survival, you know, like Matt was talking about that survival, you know, survival related situations rather than like serious or violent crimes. You know, I've seen the pattern repeat, you know, then it keeps being repeated both personally and in the work and as my work. You know, I've seen guys you know, when I remember being in jail, I remember being in jail, 2000, when was it? 2008 was my last time in county. I had a federal hold on me, but I had a state charge, and I was in county for like 9 months, and I would see the same guys come back, you know, repeatedly come back, and it got to a point. I'm like, hey, can you bring me this color shirt? Because you could leave like your shirt or leave your socks or leave like that, and it was always on like super petty, super in my opinion, like petty charges. They get booked, be in there a few weeks, maybe a month, get out, be out a couple of days, maybe a week, and then come back. You know, but I don't know that's you know, the old me would want to say like, you know, the racism, because I used to feel like the Whatcom County and the sheriffs, you know, that they would want to pull me over, but they probably did because I was committing crime. You know, I used to play, it was, you know, so like I can't, I'm sure that plays a part, you know, the racism and it probably goes the historical trauma of being, you know, just in poverty, right? Like, but I don't know, like that's what I got on it. Thank you guys for letting me share.
Thanks, Manuel. And I want to follow up with you as well. You had mentioned just a lot of bad attitude. And so I guess like Stefan, what was that thing? Was it making a decision? Was there something that triggered the decision to not want to, was it not a better attitude, but maybe a different attitude? Or that now you were able to succeed in staying clean, sober,
What
and
was that aha moment for you? To stick with it.
no, I mean for Manuel, I want to follow up similar like I did with you, Stefan. Like, was there a certain thing that was that helped trigger that change?
For me to start the change, man, I was just you know, like you heard Stefan say, I was tired of being tired, and for me, you know, I had a spiritual awakening. You know, I felt like for the longest most of my life, you know, I was on the other side doing the other side's dirty work, and one day, like, I had this overwhelming sense of like, man, what are you doing? You know, what this isn't you. You know, this and since that day, like I made that decision, like I'm done. And I became willing to do whatever it takes to change, right? And at the time, I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't. I was already off. I was off probation. You know, it wasn't the courts. It wasn't the old lady. I was just done. And for me, um, you know, I'm grateful for my auntie Penny Carroll. Um, you know, I remember she told me, man, when you're serious, you know, I'll take you to care and you get an eval. And so for me, I called her and she was true to her word, man. She came and picked me up and I went and got an eval and made it to treatment, you know, and started my recovery journey, you know. But for the most part, I was just so tired of being tired, and I had to reach out for me, you know. Like I don't want to make this recovery related, but I had to reach out, you know, and really ask your creator with everything I have, like all my heart, like I'm serious, man. I need some help. And you know, I managed the day clean, man. You know, so but I think the tired of being tired is one of the biggest.
Thanks, Manuel. Roman, do you have something you want to add to this conversation, or we can move on to the third question? It's up to you. Is Roman still on? Okay. Third question, are there features to consider in the design of the new jail that would contribute to more positive outcomes for Indigenous inmates? Is there, speaking along, for those that have lived experience and you made that decision not to go back, is there something that we can build into this new structure that can help, that can contribute to making that more positive decision? Let's start with Matthew.
So, I've been hearing a lot about the new jail and, the designing of it and all this. So I'm grateful for the question. I'm grateful that you guys even asked me to come on. I spent a lot of time behind those walls, and kind of like Manuel now, I get to walk in there and walk out on my own accord, to go do evaluations for people. And, one thing that always came to mind when I was there, and then I had been transferred to other different jails and tribal jails and whatnot. They allow certain people of the 12-step community, I guess I could call it, right? They allow certain individuals to come in there and hold those 12-step meetings. That is vital. Another vital thing for tribal members specifically is to allow a cultural panel in there. Because for me, after, having almost 7 years in sobriety now, one thing that really pokes out to me about what was wrong prior to me getting clean and sober is that I was spiritually broken. You heard Manuel say that he had a spiritual awakening, right? And I was just saying this at our longhouse the other night. When I decided to get clean and sober, I put down the gangs, I put down the drugs and the money, I put down all those things that I that I thought were important, and I picked up a drum. I picked up my culture. I picked up, ways of what my ancestors would have wanted for us, and that's what's helped me personally, and culture comes in many different forms. It comes in forms of food, comes in form of ceremony, comes in language, like Talon, he's been huge on teaching people our language. I think allowing community members, within reason, obviously, to find that panel of people that are willing to come into there and sacrifice a day or two out of their week or a month or whatever it might be, and guinea pig it, test it out and see, because I know, like, when I was in there, I felt something was wrong with me. I couldn't figure out what. I couldn't figure out my mental health. I tried all these mental health medications, and they kept diagnosing me as major depression disorder or something like that. And they kept giving me all these different types of drugs. And I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse. And I didn't know why. And I mean, it almost drove me to the point of felt like I was being, like I was insane, thought I was hearing things. And once I got off of all that stuff, I just decided I'm done with all that. I don't want that. I want to just try this and see how it works. So when I got out and I was clean and sober, I discontinued the mental health medications. I discontinued all that stuff, right? And I started learning my culture, started learning my spirituality and what my family comes from and all this. And it just awakened something inside of me, And I thought, man, like if I would have had somebody come into the jail or treatment center that I was at on any given moment and help explain, and maybe they would have described some of that feeling to me that they might have experienced before they got clean and sober, it might have set a light off for me, and it might have like woken me up, because there was other community members that were inmates with me that spoke about being involved with their culture, but they had put it down and picked up the drugs again, right? And you only get a surface level stuff when speaking to another inmate about it. But when you get community members coming in and they're there and you allow them to carry their sacred objects, right? Like a drum, allow them to burn some sage in there, like our herbal medicine, stuff like that, And I get it. There's codes and there's safety factors. I understand all that. But if they're going to build a new jail and they're going to try to figure out a structure to this, especially for our indigenous population, we need to get back to our basics, our roots. We need to get back to what our spirits know. And the only way to do that is to allow it to happen, and then maybe, just maybe, there's a few individuals in there that turn around and say, you know what, that helped me. That helped me more than all this other stuff that they've been cramming down my throat for all these years, mental health medications, all this other stuff. There are some people that need it, and that's granted. I'm a counselor, I know. And then there's some individuals like me that I was misdiagnosed from the get-go just because I was describing these things that I didn't understand what they were. I didn't understand. I just tried to put into words the best that I could. And some doctor inside the jail says, oh, well, you've been in here 7 months. Let's give you this. Let's try you on this. Here, let's put you to sleep now. Let's keep you calm and at bay instead of rowdy and active. Maybe if they would have brought me a drum, maybe if they would have brought a panel of community members in there to speak to me about our spirituality and our culture and allow those types of things to take place, maybe things would have changed a lot sooner for me. And it's just a thought, that's something I would like to see built into it.
Awesome. Thank you. I like very vivid descriptions of things that are practical and doable. Thank you. Roman, are you on? Roman, are you on? Can you hear us? Okay. How about let's go to Chief Martin. You want to speak to this?
I think the overall, like, kind of like what Matt was referring to is like the overall education and, kind of, I don't want to utilize like the stereotypes like cultural sensitivity, but it makes sense and stuff. For, kind of the members that do or that are there, kind of helps them along. And then like kind of, people that have, I mean, I had talked to a number of people throughout my years and stuff, and it's not us, when, with my background that gets to them, is people like, people that have been in recovery and gone through it, like allowing those guys to get in there and maybe with working in partnership with, whether it be, public defenders or law enforcement, other law enforcement members or counselors that are willing to go in with them to help kind of bridge those gaps to get them there. I think that might have an opportunity to just shorten, kind of shorten it, help educate them while they're getting out to give them an opportunity to kind of, lift their lifestyles out of that, kind of rut and things. Because it's hard when you're coming from like poverty and things, and then you're getting, you're getting, some of us are kind of darker, so they don't so much identify you as a as a tribe member. Like myself, I'm kind of dark skinned, so a lot of people speak to me in Spanish, and I don't know a lick of Spanish and stuff. And so it's not uncommon for that to happen. And then, like Rosa is saying, you get followed around just to kind of help, educate them and things. And, you get people that are in there, not only that, come from that background, but maybe other people that are willing to help be there, give up their time and things to be there for them while they're there. Because not only while they're there, but when they're out too, because when people are out, that is the toughest time for them. For my family members, they hate my guts. I'm okay with that, but let me be the person they hate, because I really don't care. But it's like getting them back, so that way we can start, having opportunity to, have dinners and things like we like to do out here, go to cultural events and things like that. I think that would have a more lasting opportunity to, maybe go, create something like that within the new jail. I mean, because, as these things get a little harder on individuals, we're having to struggle with the historical trauma on top of the substance abuse because try to self-medicate. I mean, that's what my family members did and things, and some of them didn't make it out. And and then and then on top of that, you have the mental health because of the substances and things is causing a lot of other things that's masking because trying to self-medicate and things. And I mean, maybe that might be a better opportunity to set aside something like that to not only the experiences, but the cultural aspect of it and bridge those gaps for resources as well. Because Lummi has come a long ways with creating a lot of opportunities to that that we haven't ever had in the short time. They've, doing a lot of things to try to like, help the members and things. And, they do more just out here in Lummi, but it's not only for Lummi, it's they, really expand the resources to help out a lot of different, federally recognized people, people across the border in Canada, Alaska, and things, and trying to help, with that, just because it's just such a huge issue and things. I mean, that's kind of what I was on my mind and stuff and thinking.
Thank you so much. Rosa and Stefan. And I have, I guess, in addition to that, people in the men's health, you've both spoken about the structure. Is there a way to do that within the jail, or do you think that would be too soon? You both said that was a huge help to keeping you on track. I was just wondering if that is something that, and I know that's also corrections because that takes a lot of manpower, but is that something like just the being in jail, there's not a lot to do. So would there having a more structured, would that help at all? Or
I think so. As long as they're willing to see, I get people are like in and out of jail, and I was sitting here thinking about it too, like GED and all that stuff while you're in there, because like the last time I was in jail, they didn't offer that stuff anymore. But I mean, kind of what Jay was saying too is they kind of have somebody or like a panel or somebody that's been incarcerated, that's kind of gotten their life on track to go in there and not like kind of just share their story, because the last thing anyone wants to hear when you're still kind of getting off of the drugs, you don't want to be told what to necessarily told what you're doing wrong, or you don't want to get preached to, because you'll just tune that out real quick. But if someone just kind of speaks on their own story, like, and if they have questions, be willing to, or have like, I don't know, programs or something to kind of point people in the right direction as soon as they get out. Because just going back home or something like that, you're going to be back. Especially if you're not, because like Jay was saying, it's easier in there because you're protected. But when you get out is when it's all on you. It's not.
It's a test.
It's a test, and you're going to get rejected by work, bosses, whatever. Or like, it's going to be hard to find work, but things got to keep going. But most people don't know that. It's just easy. Like, all right, well, screw it then. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And the structure thing, it could be like an option too. I don't know how you'd work it in jail though, but I know out it was a good thing to be necessarily, you had to be out of the house for all day, but then you had to be doing something while you were out there, like you were showing that you're looking for work, going to school, going to meetings, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Like I did residential DOSA, and I had to go to a place or a treatment center, but it was like a behavior modification, ADHS, and that worked for me. But I know it doesn't work for everybody. But I know like in prison they have the same thing too. It's a prison-based DOSA where you learn the same things I would be learning at a treatment center, but you're like learning it while you're in prison. But I mean, that's prison though, like long term. So kind of piggybacking off of that, I guess in a way, a program if someone's people that are having enough time that are willing to participate in, if there's just an option, more likely people will take it because it gets really boring. Like when we were in Yakima jail, or when I was in Yakima, there was like their main jail, and then they would send you to a new jail, and it was like you have the option to work, I guess, for the jail, either in commissary or in the kitchen, but it gave you something to do and something to look forward to, because just sitting around, it drive you crazy. It helped me out a lot, and I know it worked for a lot of others too. Because I know when you're a trustee in Whatcom County, you have to be there for a certain amount of time to where they'll even give you that option. Or if you're sentenced already, then they'll give you that option. But sometimes people are there waiting to be sentenced a lot longer than you would think. So I don't know. Options like that kind of would work, I think.
I like the panel answer, and it made me think about more about the panel answer. It's like, for example, and we all have heard this, like, I want someone with lived experience to tell me, like, you're right here, you're at this step right now, this is what's going to happen next, right? You're going to experience this, right? Like, and it's happening no matter whether you like it or not, right? Then you were like, okay, I can brace for this, or I can prep for this, or whatever, versus someone who just learned it in textbook. It's like, honestly, I want to say this, so hopefully no one takes offense to it. That's like a man explaining to a woman, this is what you're going to experience during birth. This is how you're going to feel, right? When you're birthing a child, right? No woman's going to be like, what? You know what I mean? Like, oh, and that's kind of what it feels like. So, like, no, I teach out of college, right? And so a while back, years ago, this is where the panel thing comes in. I feel like it would be really good. Is a prison in Wenatchee or somewhere around there reached out, said, hey, we have a large indigenous population here that wants schooling, right? So they're like, and you're Northwest Indian College, right? Like, so at a all staff meeting, they announced it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to like be a part of this, whatever, and build a curriculum for people to study. And at Rotherbow was just shut down because 20 plus years ago, almost 21 years ago, I committed a crime. And I've never committed a crime since then, but that crime I'm still paying for it. How many other people are paying for my crime right now? Because I have lived experience. I've been in the system. I overcame something. Now I can sit here and just say, like, look, like, people will be more willing to listen to that versus someone's like, oh, I just graduated college, never been in the system. Now let me tell you how it's going to work. Like it's like, for example, I have students right now, first generation students, and they're scared, they're whatever. And I tell them my story, and not the jail story, because the students don't even know that, but I tell them this story. When I took the placement test when I started college. Before I started college, I took the placement test. I got to the math part. I went up to the placement officer and said, hey, I think something's going on with this computer. It's not working because it says I'm supposed to be doing math, but I don't see math. He's like, all right. He walks over, looks. He's like, oh, that's algebra. I didn't know what algebra was before I started school, you guys. So when I tell that to students, I'm like, now I can tutor in this. And now, you know what I mean? Like, so when you tell a lived experience, when you tell like, hey, it's okay not to know. It's okay that you're not stupid, you're not whatever. That's the point is once they hear that from you, they're like, oh, you're human. You okay, now these students are more open to hear what I have to say or what I have to teach or whatever. So the panel, I think, with people with a lived experience, um, is the greatest part. I think we should have that, and not just for Indigenous communities. I think it should just be for everyone in the system. But I know that's not how it's going to go. Um, but yeah, I think that's all. It's just the panel. I think that's a great start.
Awesome, thank you. Stark, I see your hand up. You have a quick follow-up question to these?
Yeah, I do. I'm Stark Follis. I'm the director of the County Public Defender's Office, and I've been listening to this, and I would say that we started this discussion to try and bring the numbers of Indigenous people in the jail down because it's the right thing to do. But there's also a self-interest part of that. Is that as we bring the numbers down in any segment of society, we reduce the size of the jail and the impact to the county. And so there's positives all around. And what I'm hearing here are about some programs that may or may not still exist at the tribal level. I think there was some talk about a men's house. I heard one of the panelists talk about how important it was to connect culturally, with ancestors and history in order to turn his life. Wondering, is there a way that the tribes and perhaps the county, in conjunction with the tribes, could work collaboratively to develop some alternatives to incarceration at the tribal level? I'm reminded of a case that got a lot of notoriety a couple decades ago where there was a couple young tribal members that were charged, I think, with a third strike offense. And a judge in Snohomish County took a chance and returned these boys to their band to be dealt with in a more traditional way. I'm thinking of your cultures that didn't have jails until we came along, and I'm wondering if there could be some things, and I'm not specifically advocating a sweat lodge or those type of programs, but I mean, are there alternatives that the tribes could provide that would in fact be more effective to getting people back on their feet, deterring reoffense, and accomplishing a lot of the goals that supposedly the jail is supposed to be doing, but doesn't do a very good job of, whether it's with tribal or non-tribal folks.
Anyone want to tackle that one in particular?
That is a really big question. And we didn't hear from Talon yet on about features to consider in the new jail design. And I'm thinking maybe well, we also need to do public comment. We have just a few minutes left for this meeting. That was a very good question, though, Stark, and I wonder about trying to continue this conversation with our panelists and other people in another meeting. Unless somebody has quick answers.
Unless there's a specific, and I was going to call, before I called on Stark, I was going to offer Talon last words regarding this particular third question, or if you can incorporate a little of Stark's question in there as well.
Yeah, that is a big question, and I think it can be done. It's just a matter of meeting with the tribe and getting everybody in a room and figuring out what can actually be done. Because, our cultural practices don't necessarily follow Robert's Rules of Order, right? So meeting with everybody and figuring out what actually can be done. I think as far as with the jail, what would be good to see, with what we've been talking about today, environment. What is the environment of the jail going to be? Because if you come into the jail now, how does it feel when you're in there? Does it feel like it's there for is it for punishment or is it for reformation? Are you there? How do you want that to look? As far as what's specifically going to be helpful for the indigenous population, yes, I think access, working collaboratively with the tribe. The tribe has lots of programs and they're working more on infrastructure. They're building a new SWIM's building a detox center. So working with them, giving their staff access, and making that barrier small. As far as the cultural aspects, that's a little bit different. Not everyone in the jail is Lummi, and not every Lummi follows our traditional practices. Some Lummis are Catholic, right? Not all the indigenous people are going to follow the older way of doing things. Some do follow newer ways, but still, for the ones that do follow those old ways or are interested, being in jail is an opportunity for that outreach. And yeah, I think providing access, that's the major key.
And I think I haven't been in on the jail design, but I know that some of the designs that have been floated have a focus of being able to meet together, community meeting rooms, group therapy rooms, things that could be used for a myriad of resources like we've been discussing here. So thank you so much for your great insight, your thoughtful responses, and I just love listening to everybody's for those that have been through the lived experiences, have come through the criminal justice system, thank you. In listening to you, you offer hope to everyone who is not yet in your position. So thank you so much. And I will turn it over back to Holly and Marty.
Thank you, Tasha. So first, I just want to mention that our council member Barrett Buchanan was here and he had to slip out early. He said, "I need to go. This was phenomenal." So I have to agree. That was just beautiful. And thank you all for your candor and your insight. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have been here. Marty, here's what I'm thinking. I think we should go ahead and just have a moment for public comment so we make sure that we honor that aspect of our meeting. And then this is an email. Marty, you're on the screen that has your emails just right now, so you know. And but anyway, I'm just going to open the floor for public comment. We're going to take that right now. We'll see how much time we need. We'll give it its 10 if we need it. And then we have a bunch of little meeting stuff we want to do, little updates. So is there any member of the public here who would like to take a moment to speak? And if you could raise your hands, then I will call on you. Thank you, Murray. Okay, yeah, Jessica, go ahead.
Oops. Hi, I really loved this panel. I think it's remarkable how much Lummy's been doing. I'm in a lot of more community-centered conversations, like I've mentioned before in other meetings, about reentry and wraparound support that intersects with this a lot. And I'm just really curious how to have more conversations, maybe in addition to this one. I'm also really thinking about how to design things and how to communicate with the county. I'm already in touch with some people here, but I'm very interested in the panelists in particular and communicating more with the tribe in addition to some other people in the community that are also thinking about reentry services and wraparound supports and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Anybody else? Okay. So hearing none, And thank you, Jessica. Marty, do you want to pop back to the screen or to the slideshow and we can look at the other little bits of updates we want to do, and then we'll get out of here right on time.
Yes. So I'll just go through these really quickly. I just want to let you know as a follow-up that we have submitted initial interim material for the interim data dashboard. Where we are in process is on this orange box. Our friends at the county are figuring out a web layout for the interim data dashboard material, and then that material will go back to data holders and IPRTF committees, including the JPOP, for review and feedback, and then we'll do tweaking and post. It will get posted on the IPRTF Justice Project webpage. So that's the plan, and that's where we are. The next one is about the sequential intercept model workshop, and I'm going to turn it over to Dean to just, and I'm not sure if Heather's still on, Dean and Heather, to just give us a quick update on what's coming on next week.
I can do that fairly quickly, but I see Rosa has her hand up, and I just wondered if she had something. Nope. Okay. Next week on the 25th all day, and then the 26th for the first half of the day, the county, with the help from Chuckanut Health Foundation, and particularly led by and facilitated by people who have been recruited by the State Administrative Office of the Courts, we're going to have this day and a half workshop to delve into the sequential intercept model and to update it from what was done 3 years ago. That product 3 years ago was primarily a listing of all the services that could be availed by someone at each of these various intercepts. And again, the intercepts are really prior to any contact with the criminal legal system. At intercept 0 to intercept 1, law enforcement contact, initial detention at intercept 2, going through the jail and the courts process at 3, then reentry at 4, and then at intercept 5, making community connections that would potentially prevent re-interacting with the criminal legal system. We have over 60 people who have filled out the survey indicating they are able to attend. We've indicated to all of them that they are able to come. It will be held down at the terminal, the ferry terminal in Fairhaven, and facilitated, as I said, by folks from the Administrative Office of the Courts. If you filled out the survey and you got notification that you are invited to attend, please do. My hope for the workshop is that we will be able to dig in more detail to not just what the services are that we need at the various intercepts to make them effective diversion points, but what are the procedural issues and barriers to actually getting people connected at those various intercept points with the options that are available to them. And so I'm very much hoping we can develop ideas for even further improvements in how we're doing things. And I guess I would also add that if we are able to project that we can begin even more successful diversions, I'm hoping that those things will be taken into account by those who are still grappling with the question of the bed size of the jail. Because I do know that given the scenarios that have been now made public, that there are real concerns about whether we have enough money to develop the kind of jail that has the things as a part of it that we've just discussed here in this session. So that's what we're hoping to do next Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll be reporting back on what happens.
Thank you, Dean. And Who is WPJC? Who has a raised hand?
Hi, my name is Kaya Gilia, and I'm here at the Watkin Peace and Justice Center. And I just wanted to read a public comment. So I'm sorry I missed that part. Is that okay to do now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm really grateful for everyone who spoke today, sharing your experiences. I really heard the systemic and historical nature of the reasons why Indigenous people are overly incarcerated. I've heard the themes of poverty, systemic inequality, racial profiling, historical trauma, stress, untreated mental health, and housing. The history of what settlers have done here to Indigenous people is core to the question, why are Indigenous people incarcerated at higher rates? This violent history doesn't just go away, and it's not okay to erase that history in the way it continues in our current institutions like incarceration. The over-incarcerations of Indigenous people is a continuation of that history. I really hope everyone here is committed to ending the over-incarceration of Indigenous people and all people of color. This system protects people with privilege and power, and that is not right or fair. So I really hope this conversation is not just listening to people's vulnerable stories and then continuing to do the same thing, or think that you can fix this systemic violence just by the way the jail is designed. What if this conversation looked like, how can the city return the land that was stolen from Indigenous people, resources that have been stolen? What if the conversation was, how can we support the thriving of Indigenous people and support the dreams and visions of justice held by these communities? It is immoral to acknowledge that our jails are over-incarcerating Indigenous people and all people of color, and then go ahead and expand it, continue to do it without fixing the root causes of this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm also here, and I was wondering if I could give one. I tried to kind of manually put my hand up, but I wasn't able to.
You got 1 minute. Go for it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shannon. I was a paralegal in criminal defense for about 8 years before moving into the nonprofit field, and now I work for WPJC. I'm also speaking as someone whose uncle was a member of the people of the Dawnland, and he suffered from severe mental health issues until he died. A big part of that was not being able to have access to resources in community. I really appreciate hearing all of the panelists' stories today. I heard themes of poverty, stress, racial profiling, substance abuse, trauma, and our country's history of patterns and violence against Indigenous people as reasons for higher rates of incarceration. I also heard panelists express the need for strong support networks and a sense of belonging as things that could help. Some of the follow-up questions from the committee seem to ignore the bigger picture of historical trauma and root causes that panelists discussed. And the agenda in this meeting acknowledged that Indigenous folks are incarcerated at high rates, but then seem to shift into planning for that instead of actually preventing it. And so I want to stress the importance of putting money into accessible services and programs like even Stark, I believe, mentioned, outside of the jail, including reentry services as preventative measures. Planning for its continuance within the jail is essentially saying that we know it's happening, but we're going to continue doing it, which is morally wrong, I think. I also was wondering if the disparities within Black and Latin communities are going to be addressed in future meetings, like, we addressed Indigenous folks here. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for just getting things so succinct and clear.
Oh, I wrote it out. I hate
I
public
could
speaking,
tell.
so this was helpful.
That's great. And I really appreciate too the just reflection of the themes. That was awesome. Okay, gang. Well, it is now time for our meeting to be closing. So Marty, could you just do the next step slide and we'll just get out of here with much gratitude for our panelists and for everybody who's here today. And then we'll go ahead and close the session.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know there's a couple of vacant seats on the JPOP for these two positions, behavioral health provider and person with lived experience in the criminal legal system. And want to encourage some of you who are here today to apply if you would like to be on the JPOP. And then our next meeting is in a month, March 19th. And clearly we have a lot more to discuss on related to today's topic and yes, other disproportionately represented populations who are in the jail. So thank you so much, everybody.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to Tosh and Hannah, our co-hosts, and our meeting is adjourned. Have a lovely rest of your day and your evening. Thank you for being here.